Welcome to the Irish Snug Podcast. All right, so welcome back to the Irish Snug Podcast. In my 25-year career in the FDNY, I've seen what happens when people are tested by weight. Not just the weight that they carry, but the weight of the tradition they uphold. Today's guest understands that better than anyone. He's traveling the back roads of Ireland, uncovering ancient rites of passage that haven't been touched since before the Great Hunger. He's not lifting boulders, he's lifting a culture. We're talking about the bones of the earth, the power of mythology, and why all humans need a mountain to climb or a stone to lift. Indiana Stones, welcome to the Irish Snug. So excited to have you here.
Go míle má go carta awesome down my bed layer. I'm sure that's Lumbula. Yeah, sorry, it's been an incredible journey, man. It's been the most amazing, incredible 3 or 4 years of my life. I kind of can't grasp sometimes what's after happening with this over the past couple of years.
Let me just say one thing. So
Sure.
Stone lifting, from the time I was a kid, I just want to give you a little background here. From the time that I was a kid up until 2017, which is pretty recent, my family, we have always gone to this Celtic festival in upstate New York. It was held at a ski area, a ski resort up there, Hunter Mountain. And I tell you, it was one of my favorite weekends of the entire year. It was 3 days of music, partying, it was such a great, great time. But they always had these two events there. And one of them was the caber toss, and the other one was stone lifting. So I was a kid when I first got exposed to this thing with stone lifting. Now, I will say this. I never seen one person budge the stone. It was this massive rock. And I never seen anybody budge the thing. But you don't know what you don't know. And I had no idea on the history behind stone lifting. And I was looking at it kind of like it was, like arm wrestling, your buddy in the bar or something, who's got the stronger arm. And this one was who could budge the stone, So when did you discover this ancient activity?
Oh, I think the main driver for me was the COVID lockdowns. I think it was 2020 or 2021. Before that, I was representing Ireland in a sport called kettlebell sport, which is like a strength endurance sport. So I represented Ireland for 6 years in that and traveled the world and had some amazing experiences, became European champion, world champion in that. Had an amazing time over those couple of years. But then the COVID lockdown happened and it was like all my access to gym equipment was gone. Because it was like we couldn't go outside the 2 kilometers from our house. It was like a fucking just this weird lockdown that you couldn't do anything. I was like, okay, what am I going to do? I mean, training is a part of my life now. It's a huge part of my life. It's my mental health,
Sure.
What am I going to do? I've no equipment here. I had a couple of 2 or 3 kettlebells, but like I was used to training heavy and hard. So it's like, what's the heaviest thing that I can get my hands on? So there's a couple of stones in my backyard. And just as a bored human being, over lockdown, I started lifting these stones just as a weight to lift to keep myself, I suppose, physically and mentally healthy over those crazy couple of years. Little did I know that small act of just trying to keep myself on an even keel would open up this whole world of stone lifting to me, because through the process of actually lifting those stones, putting that online and having a bit of crack with it, people put me in contact with these documentaries made by Rogue Fitness about 10 years ago on stone lifting, which if you haven't seen, I highly recommend to anybody. They're free on YouTube. One is called Full Stirker about the Icelandic lifting stones. One is called Levantadores about the Basque lifting stones. And one is called Stoneland about the Scottish lifting stones. And it wasn't just picking up a rock. It was the whole culture attached to the lifting of these stones. They were rites of passage from Bible to manhood. They were rites of passage from manhood to warrior. They were a way of denoting what share of the catch you got in the fishing boat. They were a way of testing a prospective farmhand's strength. How much money could he earn? So like your strength was your
test
worth.
fit. It was a test fit for certain jobs.
Exactly.
Right?
It was like your strength was your worth, back in the day. So I just fell in love with this idea. And it was like, hold on a second. There's a whole culture of stone lifting in Scotland, which are our, Celtic brothers just across the water. So I was like, I got to go and see these manhood stones in Scotland. I got to see, can I lift these things, So I trained over COVID. I knew a lot of the stones around 100, 110 kilos, which is about 230, 240 pounds weight. So I was like, okay, I got to train hard for this. I had a couple of lighter stones at the back. I ended up going to my local beach, picking some heavier stones, weighing them, lifting them, and traveled to Scotland to lift some of the lifting stones in Scotland just when COVID lockdowns went away. So I heard about this stone thing called the Fianna Stone in Scotland, which blew my mind wide open. It was like, there's a stone that the Fianna warriors used to lift as a test of strength to become a member of the Fianna. Now, anybody who's aware of the Fianna, if you're Celtic, you'll know what the Fianna are. If you're not, the Fianna were probably like the best group of warriors ever to roam the lands in Ireland. They were like the Navy SEALs of probably 2,000 years ago. So they're part mythology, part reality. And it's like, I heard that there was a Fianna testing school in Scotland. It was like someone saying, Thor's hammer is sitting out in the field in Trondheim and go pick it up, It's like, it's, the Fianna are to us kind of like what the Arthurian tales probably are to the English, what Achilles is to the Greeks, he's that important to us here. We still speak about him in schools. The Fianna tales are still taught in schools here. I was taught them as a child. So like part of my lore and part of my history was wrapped up in this Fianna tales. And then I heard there's a Fianna stone. I said, are you fucking real? So I had to go, and so I was like, I got to see this thing. I got to practice to lift this thing. So I went over, lifted about 10 stones in one day over there with a friend of mine from Scotland who took me around. And the last stone of the day was a Fianna stone. And I picked that stone up, and it was just the most amazing mythology meets reality moment that you could possibly imagine. It was like, I could consider myself now a member of the Fianna tribe. And then you think to yourself, how many people have put their hands on this? How many people have picked this up over the past 1,000, 2,000 years?
How many people tried and didn't do it?
How many people have tried? How many people have failed? How many hands have come on it? What did they look like? What was their day-to-day like? What was life like 1,000 years ago? People were lifting the stone then. So like, the effort remains the same through the years. But the people change, physically you might change, and the way you dress and the way you talk might change, but the effort is the same. So like, you're putting your hands back through the stone to these people, a couple of 1,000 years ago, and that blows your mind when you think about it. So I lifted that stone, and then I was like, right, if there's a Fianna stone in Scotland, there has to be a culture in Ireland. And that's when I began my research for that lost culture over here.
So the first stone you picked up was the Fianna stone.
Yeah.
And how many stones have you picked up since then, since you started this?
In Scotland or in Ireland or in general?
In general. Yeah.
So let's say in Scotland, I think I lifted 16 of the manhood stones. I lifted 8 to 10 on day one, with the Fianna stone being last. And I lifted another 6 on day 2. So 16 in 2 days in Scotland. And I have found and lifted multiple times 54 lifting stones in Ireland now over the past 4 years. And multiple lifts of those, multiple lifts. Like I train twice a week on stones. So you're probably talking thousands and thousands of lifts over the past couple of years. And it's not even just about the lifts to me. It's about the raising of the culture from the earth. You know what I mean? You're not just
that's what I was going to ask you. Is you're standing there in front of this stone.
Yeah.
What's the thoughts going through your head? Like there's the sheer weight of the stone, but then there's the presence of the lore.
Yeah. There's the cultural weight of it too, which is huge. It's a massive part of it. I mean, I suppose the biggest one, the first one that I found here, and it's still my favorite. It's the Inis Mór story. So it's the when I found out there was a Fianna stone, and I came back and I started looking for Irish lifting stones. So I just typed into Google Irish lifting stones, got nothing. But one story by a man called Conor Heffernan, who spoke about stone lifting definitely being a thing in the past in Ireland. And he spoke about a short story written by a very famous Irish writer and essayist, a man called Liam O'Flaherty. So Liam O'Flaherty wrote a story called The Stone, and it was the greatest day in this old man's life. So man was reminiscing, but the greatest day in his life was lifting this particular stone on a wedding day in front of all the Islanders. He lifted it the highest. He lifted the stone to his chest, kissed it 3 times. He said he could still hear the resounding shouts of the Islanders in his head 50, 60 years later in his dotage. He could still hear it. He remembers that lifting the stone was the greatest day in his life. Wow. So I was like, that's such a cool story, So I went, I typed in Liam O'Flaherty stone and all that kind of stuff. I ended up getting a Reddit thread by a man called Peter Martin, who kind of single-handedly brought back the culture in Scotland. He was talking to an islander on Inis Mór, where Liam O'Flaherty was born. And the islander, a woman named Fiona, said, the story that Liam O'Flaherty wrote about is not fiction. It's reality. It's based on an actual practice here on this island. And not only is it based on an actual practice, he wrote about a particular stone that was lifted on the island for hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of years. It's on a small pathway down by Barbell on Doon, which is a small little harbour in the village of Kirkmacapa. The stone is still there, and I hope this helps somebody. So that was written on a Reddit thread about 12 years ago. So I was like, are you telling me that this isn't just a piece of fiction, a beautiful story written by one of our most famous writers? It's an actual practice, and an actual stone that was written about. So I made it my business, to follow that lead and to go see could I find the stone from the story, the stone. That weekend I went up to Galway and got a ferry across to the Aran Islands, which is 40 minutes out off the west coast of Ireland. Got a bike, cycled 25 minutes to get to this place because you can't have cars on the island, and went looking for this stone. Now, if you haven't been to the Aran Islands are just rocks. It's just stones. It's just like an island. It's like a rock covered in rocks. You know what I mean? It's like, how am I going to know which rock is the fucking rock? But it was like, it's an island of stones. So I get to this particular pathway that they said it was on, going down towards an old harbour, and I'm walking down this pathway, and there's just 100,000 stones of all different shapes everywhere, but they're all grey. It's all grey limestone. So how am I going to know which one is the one? There's hundreds and hundreds and hundreds all over the place on this pathway. But I go down, and in the story, Liam describes this stone as being, it was a round block of granite, and it sparkled as the sunshine shone upon the particles of mica in its surface. And on the ground where it lay, there was a little hollow, and all around there were bruised stones, bruised to a powder. And I was like, that sounds pretty specific. So I was thinking granite might be a different colour. So sure enough, I'm 50 yards down from the harbour of Barbell and Doon. And then a little hollow in a patch of grass. Grass is at a premium because there's very little grass, it's all rocks. In a little patch of grass with bruised stones all around it, there's a round pink granite boulder standing out like a beacon in the field of grey limestone. And I'm like, that's it, That, no, I'm not sure, but that has to be it. It has to be it.
Makes sense.
It's round, it's pink, it stands out. It's about the right size. So I find it. I try and lift it. I can't lift it at all. I can't break the ground with it. It's huge. It's massive. I mean, I lifted some of the lifting stones of Scotland. Some I couldn't lift because they were too big. I was only at the start of my journey then. I was coming from an endurance background. I was about 76 kilos of endurance athlete trying to lift this huge stone. Couldn't do it. But I was like, that has to be it. And I come back a few weeks later with a friend of mine from Scotland. Go down, we try and lift a stone again. And on the way back, I meet an islander, a man walking down giving a walking tour. And I was like, I've got my Leshke Cara. I said, excuse me, my friend, do you know anything about the lifting stone down there? And he was like, shut, them all on Barbell and Doon. He said, yeah, the pink one. And I was like, yeah, the pink one? He said, yeah, the pink one down there in the patch of grass. They call it the Mullan, Barbell and Doon. So the stone had a name and everything. The Mullan. Mullan means round granite boulder in Aran Islands, Irish. Like, the Aran Islanders have 50 names for stones because there's just stones. So Mullan, Moulin, Mauler, Olan, Lachtluck, all these words for stones. But this one is the round granite boulder at the mouth of the port of the fort. And that's what it means. And the fort is Doonangus, which is the second oldest fort in Europe, and that sits up on the hill. And that was meant to be built by the Firbolg, which would be the ancient Irish race that lived here thousands of years ago, written in the Leor and the Hare and the Irish Hook invasions, written in the 15th century by the monks. So this is mythology and reality and everything combined with these stones. And it's named after the fort of Doonangus, which is 3,500 BC, So I'm thinking, how long is this thing being lifted for? In the story, it says it's been lifted since time immemorial. Time immemorial. You tell me how long ago that was. It could be thousands and thousands of years. So then I got verification from another. That's it. That's the stone. That's the one that was lifted. That's the testing stone of the island. So then I made it my business to see, could I, A, find some more of these stories, and B, train to lift that stone? Because when we went over there with my friend from Scotland, we weighed the stone at 171.2 kilograms, which is just a touch under 400 pounds, which is a big, big stone,
Yeah. And it's just been sitting there for time.
It's been sitting there since it was moved probably with the glacial, the British ice sheets, you know, so you're probably talking, I don't know how many tens of thousands of years ago, that stone has been there. It's been there and it's been lifted by the islanders for a long, long, long time. So, I mean, you can't help but when you put your hands on these things to think about all that, you know, to think about, you know, where did it come from? Even the stone, like, where did it come from? Like, did it come from the north, you know, north of Ireland, the Mourne Mountains maybe, and it was brought over by a glacier and dropped there, you know, a couple of 100,000 years ago, and then someone spotted it and saw the beauty of it and the shape of it and said, like, I'll try and lift that. And then you have O'Flaherty writing about it, saying, like, then he had the 3 levels of the lift. So you had level 1, which is go fui, which is the wind under it. So he could just get it off the ground. He said it was a great day in any young man's life. It was a great day in any young man's life if he could raise that stone from the ground. Then you had level 2, which was if you could get it to your lap, so all the way up and into your lap, sit it on your knees in a squat. They said you were a champion, equal of the best. But if you could stand that stone up to your chest and kiss it, you have to show control and put it back down again, you were a phenomenon of strength to be spoken about for generations. And everybody knew you, you know? So there's the 3 levels of the lift, the 3 levels of manhood, I suppose, with the lift as well. So it was just the coolest story ever. I still can't believe that that's an actual thing and that I found it, you know? I managed to find that stone and to bring this story back to life again. And I think my name has kind of been carved into the history of that stone now. Not figuratively, you know, but I think emotionally there's a piece of my soul always going to be wrapped around that beautiful pink boulder, you know. And I've had some amazing moments with it ever since. We'll get into that in a minute. I'll give you a chance to talk, and I talk all day long. You have to tell me.
Oh no! Listen, I'm really excited. I'm really excited here because I did see a video on it. And it's very emotional. When you were there with Molly Guidera, who was there with her Irish with Molly doing like I think she calls it Molly Fest, where they're in the Aran Islands and they're speaking the Irish language. It's kind of like a little I don't know if you call it a pilgrimage or a retreat. But they were there when you actually lifted that stone. So just tell that story. It's absolutely.
So from the start, I suppose. So like I've visited that stone 7 times. And it's a pilgrimage. Like I said, pilgrimage is a great one because that's the way I described it. It's a pilgrimage to get there. It's a 4.5 hour drive, followed by a 45-minute ferry, followed by a 25-minute cycle, followed by a 10-minute walk. And then you get to the stone. So it's a tough one to get to. So by the time you get there, you're already pretty damn tired, you know, because you're traveling all day. But I've traveled there 7 times, and I've gradually got better at lifting it all 7 times. But I never had gotten it up to my chest. My main goal since the start, 4 years of training, has been to see, can I stand that stone up to my chest, to do the same as the story, to art meets life, you know, to make that full circle moment for myself. And I'm 46 years old now. So it was like, you know, time is against you. And can you do this and be as strong as this extremely strong man in the Aran Islands, you know, who got renowned forever about his famous strength. So I trained him. I trained like a demon. I trained and just built it up and ate more and ate more. I went from being 75 kilos to 105 kilos. And I was invited over 6 months ago, or sorry, almost 12 months ago now, by Molly. She said, I love what you're doing and bringing back this culture. Could you come over and maybe give a talk and a demonstration of the lift? I said, I will. And at this stage, at the start, nobody cared about what I was just on this journey by myself and no one cared. At this stage, it had grown so much legs, the culture is back. It's alive. Tá Nátar Ash, the strength is back. Tá Cultúr Ash, the culture is back. And it's alive and thriving again. So a lot of people were aware of it too, you know. So I go over on the ferry and I come off the ferry and I'm met by Molly and hug and, you know, comes to talk to you and, you know, we're all speaking Irish, as much as we possibly could on the island. It was this reclamation of culture because we had so much stripped and taken away from us over the years that just to see everybody over there trying their best, you know, to be a kind of square, to be speaking Irish, no matter how pidgin it was, no matter how many few words you had, you'd use them. So it was like there was a whole vibe of good energy and cultural reclamation. We're bringing something back. We're bringing it back. We're bringing our language back. We're bringing our pride back. So I get off and I'm met by about 70, 80 people on bikes because it's bikes only on the island. And they're all cheering and, you know, what are you cheering for? They're cheering for you. So what do you mean? You know, they're all proud of you. They're all proud of what you've done, you know. So we cycle to the place which is down actually right down by Liam O'Flaherty's house. It's only about 200 yards away from his house where he lived. And there's a memorial statue to him there. And at the memorial statue, there's about another 100 people there because they got him down by bus. They were a little bit older. So all in all, there's probably about 200 people down to watching me lift this stone and give a talk about it. So we walked down to the stone. It was the most beautiful day ever, beautiful blue skies. And we walked down to the stone, and I'm standing there looking at it. And every time you go there, you forget how big the damn thing is. It's like it's huge. I mean, it's as a lump of granite goes, it's big, it's round, it comes just above over my knees, and I'm standing over it. It's a big stone, you know. I mean, it's a big effort to lift this thing. But I was standing there and I was giving my talk about it, telling about the Liam O'Flaherty story. This was the first stone found. I've never lifted it higher than my knees before, but I'm going to try my best. So I was getting nervous. I was like, there's 200 people around you. 200 people standing in a big circle around you, you know. So I was like, lads, can someone put on some music or something? Can I give me a fucking bit of a G up here? You know what I mean? I'm nervous, you know. And then everybody started singing, "O Roisin of Ahawalya." You know, everybody. The 2 people started singing it. Then 10 people started singing it. And then everybody started singing it. And "O Roisin of Ahawalya" is an old Irish song. And it's "O Ro, you're welcome home." Oh, sorry, man, this gets me every time. I can't even talk about this.
Let me tell you, I'm when I watched the video of it, and we're gonna put the video on. I'm gonna put this video on so that.
Anyone have any Irish music or something you can put on? Put on a bit of Kaylee. Yeah. Up. 3 levels of the lift, so you had level 1 to go A5, which is the wind under it. So we could just get it off the ground. It said it was a great day in any young man's life. It's a great day in any young man's life if you could raise that stone from the ground. Then you had level 2, which was if you could get it to your lap, so all the way up and into your lap, sit it on your knees in the squat. They said you were a champion, equal of the best. But if you could stand that stone up to your chest and kiss it, you have to show control and put it back down again, you were a phenomenon of strength to be spoken about for generations. Right, man.
I'm going to tell you a quick little story. My first time ever going to Ireland was with a very, very good friend of mine. It was a group of us, but a very good friend of mine. His family's from Ireland. Fireman, 6'4", massive strength this guy has, right? We're over in Ireland and we're driving around, and we went to his mother's hometown, and there was an old timer in one of the pubs we went to, and he sang "O Roisin of Ahawalya" as the first time I ever heard that song, and I was very intrigued because it was in Galway. It's the Gaeltacht. It's this guy. It's his number 1 language is speaking Irish, and here he is singing this song, and it really, you know, it got me. It's very, very good, and I always said I got to learn how to sing that song. First, I have to learn the Irish language, which I am working on. But so that was one thing. In that same trip, we took a trip to his father's homeland, where his father grew up, and the name of the town is Lettermullen. You know where Lettermullen is? Mm-hmm. It's right off from where Inis Mór is. But when we were driving through Lettermullen, he says, "Hey guys, what do you notice around here?" And we look around, we're like, it's all rock. It was just rock everywhere, rock everywhere. And this is right off the coast of Inis Mór, right, where Lettermullen is. So now I'm going to tell you what my friend's name is. His name is Liam Flaherty.
Away. Oh man, that's amazing.
Liam Flaherty, and it was O'Flaherty. His father had dropped the O. His father's brother, he kept the O. So Liam had a cousin, Rory O'Flaherty, but his name is Flaherty. But Liam Flaherty, yes. And when you started telling me when I started hearing about this Liam Flaherty stone, I'm like, what?
You gotta go see this thing, man.
Yeah,
so
I got it.
What was this? Oh yeah. So look, we were there. So look, when people just started singing this. So when you're singing a song, that's about 500 years old, in a place like there's a fort there that's 5,000 years old, and the language was stripped; it was taken from us. But everyone there is bringing it back. Everyone there is singing in the language. And they're welcoming you back to your language, to your culture, Oh, man. So I was like, Oh, shit, and it was like this energy was just coming fucking in. It was just coming in. I'm in the middle. And they're all singing this around me. And I'm in the middle, and this fucking energy's coming in. And I stood over that stone, and I picked it up like I was picking up a football. 171.2 kilos. And up into my lap. And I was like, I can't believe how fucking easy that was. So the hard part then is to get it from your lap, to get it stand up with that thing. So I turn it. I get a good right hand over, left hand under, and I just push my hips through, and up it comes all the way up to my chest. Give it the 3 kisses like the man does in the story. Put it down again. And just fucking broke me. You know, overwhelmed with the fact that I'd done it. I mean, I was 4 years training for it, but it wasn't just that. It was like the fact that the culture's alive. It's back again, you know?
Yeah,
And these people,
I can't even imagine.
bringing that energy, you know what? All of that. So I go down, I'm overwhelmed, I stand up, and I get a hug, and then people come in a fucking tribal hug around me, like about 30 or 40 people just in, and everyone putting their hands in on top of your head, and they're around you in a big circle, and no one is saying, well done, or congratulations. Everybody is saying, you know, Gora Mahagut, thank you. Everyone is just saying thank you, you know? And it's like, it's one of those moments that you're like, it was perfect. You don't get many.
I can't even imagine how that felt for you, but especially with the music, the song, the language.
It was the whole vibe of...
The whole vibe.
The culture was dead, and now it's back. The language was dead, and now it's back. We're celebrating everything together. We're here together in this moment. And it was a perfect day. The sky was blue. And I got the best lift of my life. All combined in one day, one perfect moment.
That's
and
great.
I'll never forget it as long as I live. And the man of the story said that it was the greatest day in his life. And I will go to my grave and thinking that is probably the greatest day in my life, you know? So art becomes life. Becomes art, becomes life in kind of a Celtic knot. And I walked into the pub that night. We went back to the pub. We had a few drinks. But as I walked in, I was like, you know, Tá Taoiseach, Tá Taoiseach or Ash, you know, the chieftain is coming, you know? So it was called the Taoiseach for the whole rest of the whole thing, that the chieftain, you know, it was called the chieftain. I was like, yeah, man, that's pretty fucking cool. You know what I mean?
That's really
so
cool.
it was just with this wonderful, wonderful occasion. And Molly still talks about it. She still texts me every now and again. And she'll say, you know, I just wanted to say thanks again, because that was just what an experience. It was, like, I don't think I'll ever do it again. I don't think I need to lift that stone ever again. I had my perfect moment with it, you know.
Sure.
I take people there. I take people there, show them it, and show them the area, because it's absolutely great. That is magical. But just I had my time with it, and now it's time to pass it on.
Good.
You know, that was the first one. That was the first stone found. You know, what a story that is. And I've spoken about it on podcasts. It's been on the national TV. I've spoken about it on like interview shows. We've had nationwide. We've done a documentary for RT, a 1 hour documentary for our national broadcaster called Native Stone. And that stone featured heavily in it too. And it was just, it's now people know it's become almost like an iconic strength place that people can go visit, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. Now tell me how you're finding stones and doing research to to where the next stone is going to be.
Yeah. So I mean, like I said, that was the first one, you know, stone one. So I got a couple of calls after that. Like when I put it back, I put that on the map. It was the first Irish living stone found. So a lot of people are kind of calling and saying, "Oh, that's amazing." But I got in contact with a man called Johnny Dillon. And Johnny Dillon works for the National Folklore Collection, which is the best thing that was ever done by the Irish government. So there was back in 1937, 38 and 39, the Irish government put folklore on the national curriculum for children. So they said, right, kids, our country has just been formed. You know, we've just become a republic. We're losing a lot of our old stories. Here's a copybook. Go back to your mothers and fathers, your grandfathers and uncles and aunts, and ask them about the local traditions in their area. Anything. It could be anything from cooking to cures to battles to supernatural stuff.
What was the time frame of this? What was the time frame?
1937 to 1939.
Okay.
So they were like, right, go back. Here's a list of topics, and every Friday we do folklore instead of doing fucking English or Irish or maths or whatever, you know. So the whole folklore of the nation was collected by these children, put together, collated, sent to Dublin, and is now available to go see in the National Folklore Collection. But in the last couple of years, what they're doing is they're digitizing this now and they're putting it online. So you
That
can
was
just
my
type
next
in,
question.
yeah, so you can just type in, it's called Duchas, Duchas. Duchas is the Irish for birthright. So Duchas, you can type in the Duchas into Google and you get into the National Folklore Collection for free. And you can type in a keyword. So you can type in your surname, where your family is from, anything at all as a keyword, and you get all the stories from all over Ireland with that keyword. So of course, what did I type in? Stone. And I typed in stone and I got 25,000 references to stone. 25,000 references.
Wow.
That's a lot of references.
Wow.
To show you how important stone is to us, like Tommy, Nadina Clear, we were the people of stone. But a lot of those were, like, say, marking stones or giants throwing stones or dolmens or cromlechs or standing stones or standing circles or whatever it was. But every now and again, you get a story about somebody lifting a stone at a crossroads or at a funeral practice. Funeral games were a big thing here. Or after Mass or before Mass on a Sunday, which was a huge thing. So I ended up finding a load of stories from Duchas about stone lifting. And I started to gradually kind of gather this stone lifting culture throughout Ireland. First of all, I thought it was just on the west. Then first of all, I thought it was just on the islands off the west. Then Galway was very, very big for it. Mayo, Clare. But then there's stories from every county in Ireland about stone lifting. It was obviously a practice that was done pre-famine times, pre-1840s, say. This was a huge cultural practice. People would meet at the crossroads on a Sunday. There'd be dancing and singing and matchmaking, but there'd also be feats of strength. There'd be stone lifting or stone throwing. And pretty much every crossroads would have its own set of stones, lifting stones at it. They were also practiced after funerals or after Mass on Sundays in graveyards. A lot of graveyards have specific lifting stones in them that were lifted as funeral games, which are held for prominent people in the area. The funeral might last 3 days. So there'd be tests of strength and endurance and all these crazy games that people used to practice back in the day to pass the day, And it's probably the only time that people would get together, because you're talking pre-internet and probably pre-phones, pre-everything, you know what I mean? So
Right.
people would only get together in large gatherings at these things. And then people, and men being men, would say, look, there's a lifting stone, let's try it. So you had a big social status thing to be able to lift these stones. If you were the best of the day, you got huge social status. The women might find you more attractive, the men would talk about you, you'd be a better chance of getting a job. So all of these things were a very important part of who we were. So I just kept finding this culture as I dove through Duchas, and the more I found, I just drive to the place then. They're very generic. If you say a man lifted a stone in a graveyard in the village of Keohan in Tipperary. And he was a very strong man, and he was the only man could do it. All the men used to come on a Sunday, but the only man could do it was this man. So you're there could be 30 graveyards in around that area. So you just have to go to a couple of them and look. And Irish people, being innately fucking curious and nosy, if they see you wandering down a graveyard, they can ask you, you're looking for something in particular. They can say, I'm looking for a stone. Then all of a sudden, someone's like, oh yeah, I don't know about it, but Jesus, I know there's a man who might know. He'll send you down the road. You're knocking on a guy's door you never met before. I was sent down here to talk about this. Oh yeah, the stone. Yeah, I remember that. My grandfather lifted that. Come in, I'll tell you all about it. And then you're sitting at someone's table you never met before. They're giving you tea and biscuits. They're telling you all about the story of someone who lifted this stone. And then they're bringing it up to show you where it is. There it is there. The last man to lift it was my own grandfather. Or the last man to lift it was my great uncle or something. You know what I mean? And then it's there it's alive again. So there it is. So then you go, you lift it or you don't lift it. And then you're the next person in that link in that chain, and the story's back alive again. And that's what it's been. It's been just travel to the places, meet the people, get the stories, find the stone, lift the stone.
Have you noticed any of those people who led you to the stone after, let's say, you lifted the stone? Is there do they feel any kind of revival in their own ancestry or happiness about that?
Oh my God, there's a stone I went to up in Carna, up in West Galway, and it was called Cloughnarkeen. So Arkeen would be a cove, would be an open cove, Arkeen, whereas a crumpon would be a closed cove, a closed cove. So this is a beautiful open cove, so Cloughnarkeen. And this stone was lifted for hundreds of years as a fisherman's testing stone. It's right beside the sea, right up against a beautiful old stone wall, So I was told this by a man who lived in the area. I said, the last man who lifted that stone is still alive. Now, he lifted it 50 years ago, but he's still alive. Do you want to come up and see it? Because people get windy. You're the stone lifting guy. You get people sending you messages online. So we go up to this place and I meet this man, Michal. And he's only living about 100 yards away from where the stone is. He comes down to meet me, I pull in my car. I'm after driving 5 hours to get here because it's right in the west of Galway, in the middle of nowhere, and right up by the coastline. And then this man comes down. He's like, don't lift it yet. I want to tell all my friends. So he's on phone all his friends. And then the wives are coming out, the kids are coming out, the dogs are coming out. And then there could be maybe 20 people there watching you. And then, like I saw, there was a police car came up. And I was like, oh shit, they're going to tell me to stop. I was like, no, that was his friends. The Gardaí were coming out to watch. Everyone was coming out to watch. And they're all standing around the stone then. And they're all talking about the last man who lifted it. And then they're talking about, oh yeah, but didn't your father lift it? He did, yeah, geez, that was a great lifting. They're reminiscing about all the area and the lifts that were done. And then you go to lift it. So like, I weighed that one at 190 kilos, but the lift on this one was just to get the go free. So that's like, what, 420 pounds. But what you have to do with this one is just get the wind under it. So you have to grab it by the underneath and it's shaped like a whale's back. So it's kind of like large at the top and then it comes down. It's like a whale going under the water, which is beautiful because it's right beside the cove. So you have to just find the balance point on this and just drive to the floor and pick that thing up. Now, picking up a stone, people kind of saying, like, especially strongmen are kind of saying, like, 190 kilos, that's relatively easy on a deadlift, and it is. I mean, geez, I can lift that, no problem. But it's like the difference with lifting a stone and lifting a barbell, it's 100%
different.
Much more difficult because a barbell is made to be lifted. It's ergonomic, it's equally weighted, it's got a fucking handle. You're inside, you're in a gym, and it's made to be lifted. A stone isn't. A stone is outside. You're dealing with texture. You're dealing with trying to get handholds on it. Grip is a huge factor. It's raining. It's the west of Ireland. You're trying to get a grip on this thing. You're going down lower and you're trying to push the ground away from you and lift a rock that doesn't want to be lifted. It's quite happy where it is. So it's quite happy. You know what I mean? It's been there a long time. It doesn't like being picked up too much.
It's comfortable.
It's very comfortable on the ground there. It's quite pleased where it is.
Yeah.
So I set myself over this and I lift it, and the cheers, man, the happiness it gives people. I can't believe how such a simple thing makes people so happy, because I mean, you get a buzz off when you're doing it, but you see the people reacting and cheering and hooting and hollering and coming over and hugging you and slapping you on the back and they come up any time and just fucking call into the house, don't even knock. You're always welcome here. You've continued on the story.
There's something to be said about that right there. The simple things in life.
That's what it is, man. It's a simple thing. It's the simplest thing in the world. Yeah. It's the easiest thing in the world, in theory, to go out and just pick up a stone. But it's like you're not just lifting a stone, you're lifting a story. And that's what I love about it. These aren't just stones, they're stories, Yeah. They're parts of the local culture. And you're continuing that local culture. And people really, really, really appreciate that, because like my dad and my granddad lifted it, I lifted it, and now you lifted it, man. You know what I mean? So you're lifting like you're part of the family almost now. You know what I mean?
Let me ask you this: if I'm walking through a field, like if I go back to my grandmother's cottage in Bangor, Eris, if I'm walking through the field there and there's like some big rock there that's like way out of place, could that be maybe a lifting stone that was used?
Potentially. For it to be a lifting stone means it has to have a story attached to it. So whether someone had lifted it before or it'll be lifted by the people in the area, it's all about the story. Other than that, it's just a stone in the field. But I always say to people too, that the stone story starts when you lift it. Because I started lifting these stones on the beach in Benvoy, where I'm from, here in Waterford, the southeast of Ireland. I started lifting these stones just because they stood out because they were beautiful. But now people are coming from all over the world to lift these stones because I've named them and weighed them. And I sent one of those stones over to Boston as a gift to the stone lifters in America. And that stone is now sitting in Boston and it's been brought around to all the Irish festivals and lifted as the Irish lifting stone. Clock Bawn, the white stone. And that stone has been lifted by about 300 people in America and by about 150 people here in Ireland,
Yeah.
And that stone's just started with me picking it 4 years ago and saying that looks beautiful. But now the story is alive with it, and people are adding their own stories to it. Wool gather stories, So the story is everything. Once it has a story, it's a lifting stone. But once you lift it, you start the story yourself,
There's nothing wrong with that. Has there been any stones ever written about or discovered that might have their own language on it?
No, no, I think I have gone to a lot of these home sites and found them. But those would be more like archaeological stones. You wouldn't be messing with that kind of stuff, you know. Um, anything like that would be more of an archaeological. Like Boulogne stone is the same way, you know. They're storied archaeological pieces. I wouldn't want to go messing with them. A lot of these lifting stones are just picked up because of their beauty, their shape, their color, and it's amazing that that stands out, especially in the West. Most of the lifting stones on the west of Ireland are pink granite because they stand out against the grey limestone. You know, all of the lifting stones on the islands are pink granite.
I've been following this guy on Facebook or Instagram. I forget which one. He has some reels that go out, and he teaches little phrases of Irish. He's a guy from Donegal. I don't even know what his name is, but one of the words that I saw this week, it just so happened. You know, I know you were coming on the show, but one of the words he had was Carrick War, large rock or big rock, right?
Yeah. Large rock.
So I thought that was interesting that cool, just showed up.
But yeah, I mean, like, it's amazing that there's a lot of Irish place names would have Corrig or Cluck in it as well, you know, which would be stone. Clockeen, Clocker, no, Clockmore. Then you have Carrick, like Carrick on Shore. I lived about 20 minutes from Carrick on Shore. That's a Corrig on Shore, like, you know, stone in the river shore, or the rock in the river shore. So Corrig or Cluck are in a lot of our places because there's so much stone here, you know. So it's a prefix to a lot of our names.
Is that like my family is from Belmullet. My grandfather's from Belmullet. My grandmother's from Bangor Eris. But I know if you go out towards Blacksod, there's an area called Claher. Is that Clacher, stone?
Yeah, that's stone. Yeah.
Interesting.
You know, so like, yeah, I mean, Irish place names are awesome because once you delve into that too, you figure out that the Irish place names all mean something. The English kind of bastardizations of them, like the Anglicizations of them, don't mean anything. So, like, say where I'm from is where I lived with someone, it's called a place called Benvoy in English, but in Irish it's on Benvoy, and on Benvoy means the melodious yellow, and it's called the melodious yellow because the cliffs are yellow, and the melody of the sea hit the cliffs. You know what I mean? So, like, the melodious yellow means everything, but Benvoy means nothing. Fenner on Fionn up the road from where I am. Fenner on Fionn means the white side of the hill. You know, the white side of the hill, because there's white indigenous plant life on that side of the hill. So that's the white side of the hill. No, Fionn, that means everything. Fenner means nothing. So what happened was the English came in and just bastardized the names. They just kind of wrote out English version of the names, which mean nothing. But at least we retained those Irish names, and now we're kind of reclaiming them. You know, my favourite one is place called Clonmel, which is only a couple of minutes from me here too, on Clonmala, which means the meadow of honey. You know, because it's an arable land, it's full of bees. So on Clonmala, the meadow of honey, like, isn't that beautiful? You know, Clonmel means nothing, but on Clonmala means everything. So yeah, so the Irish names, it's like there's a whole reclamation going on over here now. We're all proud again to be who we are, because we had that kind of post-colonial shame for a long time here. We were ashamed to be Irish. We were ashamed to know Irish or practice Irish cultures, our songs, our music. But there's been this telluric, resonant from the earth kind of upswelling of love for our culture and our history and heritage and language. Again, over the last 5 years, you can feel it in the earth here. You can feel it in the bones.
Yeah.
And I think this is why it just landed so hard. This is why it became so popular so quick, because it just landed on fertile soil, because people are just like, oh, this is awesome. This is a part of who we are, part of who we were. We'd lost it or it was taken from us, but now it's back, you know? So yeah, man, it's just been the most amazing couple of years. I mean, fucking hell. I mean, going on the TV, doing a 1 hour special, like 18 months shooting this. It's available to watch in the RTE player, but hopefully we'll be sending it to America in the next couple of months. And doing that, like, you know, being on TV as an invited guest and fucking being on every podcast you can imagine, meeting all these cultural ambassadors. Right after writing a book that's coming out next month, the book is coming out with Bloomsbury and it's coming out with Penguin in the States too.
What's the name of the book going to be?
It's called The Wind Beneath the Stone. And it'll be out in September in the States. So it's just all this stuff is happening in such a short space of time. You kind of feel like I'm living this double life. It's like, is it actually happening? You know?
Let me ask you this. What's the age, like, how old do you think you can do this until?
To lift them?
Yeah.
Well, I suppose it all depends on what part of the world you're in. The Irish lifting stones are some of the heaviest in the world. I won't say they're the heaviest, but the Irish lifting stones, the average is about 170 kilos.
Yeah.
So I mean, that's average. Like just a lot heavier. There's a lot lighter, but there's also a lot heavier. So I mean, realistically, I'm 45. I probably have a couple of years left. Not many. Your strength is on
Are
the
you?
on the wane. But I will say that I've never felt stronger in my life than I do now. Um, I'm lifting these stones. Like, to be able to lift a 171 kilo stone to the chest is a big lift. It's a big lift. I mean, they have a thing called full stirp, which means full strong in Iceland. Full strong. And it's like the best stone lifting moniker you can get in Iceland. Those were always the heaviest in the world. And a lot of the full strong stones were around 150, 160 kilos. This is 171, man. It's another step again. So, like, the Irish ones are big, they're heavy. Generally, the Irish ones are like the strongest man in the parish lifted this stone. So, as a test, as a show of his power, he lifted this particular stone. So, you're putting yourself up against some of the strongest men who ever lived around the area. So, yeah, so like you haven't got too long to be able to do it. I'll give myself probably maybe another 2 years. And I'm starting
you seem to be the gatekeeper of this activity now. So are you mentoring anybody, like, to be the next? Yeah.
Oh God. I mean, there's people. The good thing about it now, Tim, is there's people coming from all over the world too. I mean, if you have a load of Irish men doing it now, men and women. Don't get me wrong, there's women's lifting stones here too, and they're very famous and they're beautiful. But you have people coming from all over around to do it. I'm getting it every week in the summertime. Multiple times a week, I'm getting videos and photographs of people going to these stones and continuing the story on. And you have people traveling from all over the world to lift them. People come from every part of the world you can imagine to lift these stones, because they might have come from an Irish family. They might have had to travel through before the famine or during the famine. Might have had to move to the east coast of America or Canada or Southern America, and they're coming back to get in contact with their roots, and they're lifting these things. They're like, fuck yes, you know what I mean? This is brilliant. I'm back. I've put my hands in these stones and I've proved myself, and I'm back getting reattached to my roots here again, So to be able to give the world something like that back through the simple act of just going looking for them is the greatest honor that I could possibly ever imagine. And it's something I don't take lightly. So like I said, I'm pushing this as much as I can, promoting as much as I can, talking about it as much as I can, and just trying to keep the thing alive for as long as possible. But I do feel it's undeniable now, It's in the public consciousness again, Tá náirteagas an cultúr arás.
The same thing with the Irish language. Like this whole revival is happening.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's wonderful to see, because I'm thinking about the likes of my own dad and men of that age, a lot of men of that age, had that colonial shame that I don't want to know about the Irish language. I don't want to know about it's no use. I don't want to know about it. I don't like the music. Like, he doesn't like the Irish music, he doesn't like the Irish language. And they just had that bet out of them in schools, back in the 50s and 60s. There was a whole stigma and shame attached to being Irish, People are leaving in droves because of depression and lack of money and lack of opportunities. People are just leaving in droves and leaving the language and the culture behind them. But it's, people are bringing it back now. They're bringing it back. People are coming back. They're bringing it back. And to be at the tip of the spear, be able to do that in my own, small little way is huge. Man.
Yeah. I had paperwork to get my Irish citizenship years ago, and I just dragged my feet. I just never did it. I finally did it. And I finally, And my friends ask me, like, what the benefit of it is. What's the benefit of why you should have your citizenship? And I tell them that the main reason is, the more I learn about Irish culture, especially doing this podcast, I'm learning, just even sitting here with you, the more I learn about the culture and everything, the more I realize the importance of my heritage, and being part of these customs is also in my bones. And that, just 2 generations, my family has probably been in Ireland for thousands of years. They're all from the west of Ireland, and that's in my bones. The last names of my family is Taher, Winters. The Winters side, they're from they live in Bangor Erris now. I have cousins there, but the name Winters actually comes from Clare Island, and it's said that we might even have been related to Grace O'Malley. Who I don't think we'll ever know that true story, but I mean, the point is that the DNA of me has been in Ireland probably for thousands of years, and I'm only 2 generations off. So why should I not have that? Shouldn't separate me from wanting that.
It doesn't. It doesn't separate you at all. But the way, and I speak about this a lot, and I speak about the people who left Ireland didn't want to leave Ireland. They had to leave Ireland, you know?
Correct.
And anyone who left over the last 150 years had to leave. They had no option. Your root is deep here, you know? You're just separated by a couple of generations.
Yeah.
But you, to me, and I'm preaching this in every podcast and to me, you were as Irish as I am. You know what I mean? You're the exact same as me. You had to leave here, but you're still Irish. You retain your Irishness. You retain that blood and marrow doesn't go away, man. You know what I mean? That's who you are. That's the root of you. That's the marrow of your bones, like, and that's who you are. And you should be proud of your Irishness because you retained it through the separation. You know, but it's just a physical separation. In your heart, you're still the same. So I say to all these people, come back to Ireland and you'll drive around and get back in contact with your roots again. But to me, the people who had to leave Ireland are always Irish, and they always will be. You know?
Yeah. I've always loved the music, and the language now is really. I guess I've always loved the music since I was a kid. But as far as the language, Irish music, man, I love it. Yeah, the language though, that's something that I'm really intrigued with now, and because I remember when I first heard people. I could tell you the first time was that time when I was with my buddy Liam Flaherty when we went to his grandmother's house in Galway, and she didn't really speak English. She's it was mostly Irish, and it was tough to understand her. But I couldn't imagine at that time. This is the first time I'm hearing the language. I couldn't imagine myself being able to learn the language because it was definitely something you hadn't heard before, you know. But now talking like with Molly and just watching a lot of different things online, and with the internet now, things are so much easier. I'm giving it a whirl.
Well, Mahu, you know what I mean? Tasha Rouse, I mean, it's Bralam and Changa, like Tasha Cree August Anam Natira, you know, it's the heart and soul of the land. Like what's the old phrase, like Tir gan Changa, Tir gan Anam, you know, a land without a language is a land without a soul. And we had our soul stripped away from us, you know, a long time. But I mean, now the language is back. And when you get in contact with the Irish language, you delve into it, you see how closely related it is to spirituality, to the land itself, and to the mythologies, you know? And it attaches you more to where you're from, more than anything I can possibly imagine. I've delved into it over the past couple of years through the process of looking for these stones. I've gotten back in contact with my language as well, and the Irish music, you know? And it's rooted me in a way that I can't describe, but it's just, you see the spirituality and the beauty of the language, and you appreciate where you're from a hell of a lot more. I want to play you a song before we go.
Oh yeah, definitely.
I play the Irish trad all the time.
Mason's apron, very good.
I've just gone trad mad, you know. I've just gone Irish music mad, Irish language mad, Irish culture mad the last couple of years. And it's been the most amazing revelation of my whole life, you know, and I'm just glad I can share that with people. I'm just glad I can share with people now too.
Great. Well, David, Gora Mahagit, did I say that right?
You did indeed.
Gora Mahagit, right? Gora Mahagit.
Gora Mahagit fresh, you know, toss and down on my bull that.
I really appreciate you. I got a long way to go. got a long way to go. But I really appreciate you being on the show, and it's been great. Maybe we'll have you again when you got a couple other rocks under your belt, and we have another story to talk about.
Sure thing, man. And like I said, we can maybe get the book, get a promo for the book or the documentary when it comes over to America. We talk maybe in the next 12 months or 18 months. Please God, all going well.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and we'll put your link to your Instagram on here and the notes. Awesome. and all the other stuff that we talked about. So great talking to you. Enjoy the rest of the day. Slán.
Slán go fóill.